Good evening, everybody. Thank you again for joining me tonight on this Friday night. My name is Dr. Stephen Walker. This is my Monday, Wednesday, Friday mental health live stream. We missed Wednesday night, got a little distracted by events in our country, as you can no doubt imagine, but we're back, we're live, we're ready to field some questions. We want to hear what's going on, what's on everyone's mind. Remember, these broadcasts are about you. They're not about me. They're about you and your mental health and you talking about your mental health. So I'm going to start talking tonight about how to deal with it. You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what it is. It is what's been plaguing you for years. It is what's been affecting you for how long now that hasn't been dealt with. And that's what mental illness is like. We all have a degree of mental illness. Okay, we all do. Everyone has a degree of physical illness. Everyone has a degree of mental illness. Okay. Want to give a shout out to Richard Lewis. Wishing you all the best, my brother. So if anyone has any questions, if anyone has anything on their mind, again, remember, my name's Dr. Stephen Walker. This is my mental health live stream where I take questions from you, the viewer. We can talk about whatever's on your mind. We can talk about what's happening in our country. You know, there's a lot of polarization going on. So I want to touch on that a little bit, but I want to basically, anyone who's watching this live or catching it after the fact, we've been getting a lot of good views on these mental health live streams. So I want you to be able to ask any questions that are on your mind or talk about whatever you're struggling with. So let's talk about how to deal with it. Okay. And by it, everyone has an it. Everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say an it. It is the thing that's been plaguing us for years. It is the thing that's been affecting our relationship. It is the thing that we know we should have worked on years ago. The thing, the insecurity, the fear, the trauma, whatever it is, the way to deal with it is to get yourself into a position where you can start talking things out of you. The only way it is going to heal is if you deal with it. The it hasn't healed in you, good people. We all have it. I had many its, as I've talked about before. The it is never going to heal until you deal with it, until you say to yourself, it's okay that this is still affecting me. It's okay that I'm still struggling with this. It's okay that I have these issues, because everyone has them. Everyone has a degree of mental illness. Everyone, myself included. And I've been working on myself since my mid to late 20s. Still can be activated, still have moments where I'm not in total control of what's going on around me. The thing I want everyone watching this to remind yourself is that it's okay. It's okay that it, whatever it is still affecting you. Because what I've found in doing this work with people, and if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, please ask a question. I got lots of questions or curious texts or messages asking me what happened Wednesday night. Here I am. Ask a question. You've got something that's been plaguing you for years. Let's talk about it. The it is usually will manifest itself in multiple different ways. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, you have trauma from, I don't know, your childhood. You're going to have what's known as attachment issues if you're not dealing with it, if you're not dealing with those memories. And if you say this a lot, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it. That is a sign to you that you need to talk about it. Okay. Because the thing that plagues me the most as a mental health person, a licensed mental health person, is that there are people who still commit suicide. There's still people out there who will not only, murder people, but will actually murder themselves. Why? Because they have gotten themselves into such a place emotionally and psychologically where the it, and there's usually multiple its, they're not dealing with it. Why? Because number one, they're ashamed that it is still affecting you. Well, I'm here to tell you that everyone has at least one it. In some cases, they have multiple it. So if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, please ask a question. Talk about what your it is. Mental illness needs to be spoken about. if you have no problem speaking about your physical illness, your dental health, whatever other health, taking vitamins, whatever it may be, you should have no issue talking about your mental health. Because, hey, Fernando, how are you? Welcome back, man. Thanks for tuning in. So we need to talk about it. So let's break down how we start talking about it. The first thing is you start talking to yourself, okay? The first thing is you start saying to yourself, you know what, Stephen, it's okay. It's okay that this has been plaguing me for years, but I got to deal with it. Now, that may seem like the easiest step in the world. Trust me, brothers and sisters, that's the hardest part. Most people do not like to even admit there's an it. Now, remember, I'm talking about this, but if you're watching and there's something on your mind, if you're stressed out about what's going on politically in the country, if you're stressed out about anything, ask me a question. This is not about me showing everyone how intelligent I am, okay? This is about you all talking about what's on your mind. Why? Because that's how you heal it. It is something that you need to work on, okay? I'm actually talking about a chapter in a book I'm working on right now. You've got to talk about it. It is still affecting you. If you don't talk about it, if you don't work on it, it's going to work on you. You can either work on it or it will work on you. And usually, conservatively speaking, I would say 90% of people on this planet, it's the other way around. These its are working on them. Look at what's happening politically right now. We are so polarized. We are so hating each other. We are so at odds with other people simply because they're supporting either Trump or Biden. They're either a liberal or a Democrat. And the way we're going with the hate is going to end up growing. Why? Because people are not dealing with it. It is inside of you. We love to look outside and say, oh, the world is out here and the world is out there. No, the world is inside of us and it's coming out towards people in the form of hate, judgment, and fear. So if I have issues within myself, let's say I'm racist. That's too polarizing. Let's say that I believe that we shouldn't have any immigrants in this country. Don't believe that at all, just to make it clear. But let's say I believe that. Why? Or we should severely limit what's going on in this country with immigration. I'm not saying I'm in favor of open borders. Far from it. We need to have a structured immigration policy in this country like every country. But let's say I'm not. Let's say I'm, F those immigrants and I want America to be free of them. The person feeling that is not dealing with something inside of them. They weren't born thinking that way. People like to say nature versus nurture. The majority of what we see affecting this planet, this country, let's just stick with this country, is nurture. People are not dealing with their belief system. So the it for a lot of people is fear. How did we get to be such a fearful country? How? I was working with an individual yesterday, in fact, who is deathly afraid that the person's lifestyle is going to be completely ripped away when Biden takes over. That everything they're going to do, the person's going to lose everything. They're not going to have any job. They're going to end up working at the mall. And it's fear. It's the fear that is controlling people right now. And we need to work on that, people. And as a licensed mental health person, I am begging people to work on their its, because it's the its that are affecting this country. Everyone likes to point the finger, like I said before, outside of them. Oh, it's you, or it's them, or it's point it back at yourself. Own your issues. Everyonehasissues.com is one of my websites. Why is that? Because everyone has issues. Who doesn't have issues that you know? Name one person. Think of one person you know. Oh, yeah, that person doesn't have any issues. They're totally put together. You can't. You know why? Because everyone has issues, but people aren't working on it. We like to point the finger out at the other person, and then that becomes the hated one, the other. Oh, it's not me. No, it's not me. It's the other. It's the libtards. It's the maggots. It's them. We're not pointing the finger at ourselves. And hate, sure, we have wired into us a certain biological and emotional structure that allows a certain amount of thought to exist and feelings to exist within us. Absolutely, we're all born with it. But the degree of hate that I see going on in this country is very concerning. Very concerning. People are hating each other simply because they have different political views. Now, granted, political and philosophical can be hand in hand, but a lot of our philosophy is based on our conditioning. And where do we pick up that conditioning? From the people who raise us. We pick up I know people who are black people who hate white people who hate black people, Muslims who hate Jews, Jews who hate Muslims, whoever's hating this person, Tutsi, whatever. It's all conditioning. There are no born haters. There, people see differences. They've done studies with children and they see differences, but what the children don't see is superiority. They see beauty and ugliness and all of that, but they don't see superiority. Okay? We need to work on our its. You people watching this, anybody watching this right now, and I'm waiting for some questions. I'm waiting. I know you all love hearing me talk, but I'm waiting for somebody to ask a question, okay? This is why I'm doing this. I'm doing these live streams so that people can engage with me and ask me something they're going through. Alcoholism, sexual issues, marital, whatever it may be, whatever that it is in your mind that drew you to this broadcast, whether it's live or after the fact, ask a question, please. You can ask anything you'd like at any point. So before we get to some of the questions, I'm going to talk about a question that was sent to me by one of our longtime viewers. So he was asking me to talk a little bit about, and I'll weave this back into the topic for tonight, which is how to deal with it, because that's the problem. But he's asking me, wondering if you had any material or videos on our reactive mind versus our rational mind and how our rational mind departs during certain moments. Excellent question. Excellent question. So the rational mind or the intellectual mind versus the emotional mind, right versus left, has plagued people for many years. The main thing that I would say to answer that question, Toby, is this, okay? There's no reactive mind and there's no rational mind. They're all part of the same thing, okay? It's like looking at the ocean and saying, this part of the water is separate from this part of the water. Okay, so that's the first thing I would try to get you to clear up. It's not a dichotomy. It's not a cleaving. It's not a separation, even within our brain. Okay, if you split the corpus callosum, you know, that's the I think that's right. I hope that's right. Geez, I got to look that up. But let's just say that's right. The corpus callosum joins the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. So brain structures and all that was never my thing. And when I was in school, rote memorization was never my thing. But anyway, if you split that, the both sides of the mind of the brain still operate. It's not like the person just falls apart because there's no connection. So that's the thing that amazes a lot of people who study the brain, is how can you have structures that you imagine were specific to the right side and the left side, and by the way, the right side controls the left side of the body and the right side of the brain controls the I just said that the left side controls the right side. But so that the first thing I would encourage you to look at, Toby, and I'm not going to be able to get into too much of this too in depth. And again, remember, if you're watching this, please ask a question or make a comment. So the first thing I would say is, if there's no splitting between the right and the left side of the brain, it's all together. So the rational and the emotional brain. So the rational brain is the part of our brain that keeps us on track on a daily basis, meaning that we know rationally what we need to do and where we need to get to. It's a lot of it's frontal lobe, executive functioning, things like that. But the emotional part of our brain, okay, the reactive mind, as Toby is asking, that's the part that trips people up. Now, why is that? Because the reactive brain, the emotional part of us, is the it. a lot of times is the unworked on pain, is the emotional wounds that we're not dealing with that are then affecting our rationality. This is why we see a lot of sound people, intelligent people making irrational decisions, because their rational, their emotional reactive part of their mind is being fed, is being controlled by emotional and psychological forces. And by the way, guys, if you're watching this, please share this. Please bring in some people, say, hey, there's this psychologist talking about mental health, check it out. He's on live. If you have any questions, make it like, yeah, like I was working with somebody and his roommate came in and just naturally said, hey man, I'm doing my therapy. And he just said it so naturally, like if he was talking to his dentist and he said, hey man, I'm talking to my dentist. That's what we need. We need to get to a point where people are not ashamed of the fact that they're working on. I mean, it just blows me away. It literally blows me away that people are afraid to admit that they've got these issues. So getting back to Toby's question, your reactive mind, guys, and your inability to be rational a lot of times is being controlled by your unworked out it's. Hey, Angie, how are you? Thanks for joining. The it's that haven't been dealt with, the pain from your past that hasn't been dealt with is affecting you. And it's great that more people are logging on now. What we're talking about tonight is how to work on your it's, how to deal with it, how to deal with it. What is the it? The it is the crap that we haven't dealt with. So getting back to Toby's question, the way to manage to be more rational is to be able to control what is affecting the reactive mind, the emotional mind, because people like to think, oh, the conscious mind is up here and the subconscious is all down here. Well, let me ask you guys something, okay? How the hell do you think your subconscious mind gets formed? By your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is constantly feeding your subconscious mind. So it's all of the pain, all the emotional things, all the things we're not dealing with, the it's that we're not dealing with are affecting your ability to be rational. So let's take what's happening tonight across the country, okay? Unless something dramatic happens, looks like the Democrats are going to be taking back over for 4 more years. Who knows? Obviously Trump will probably run again in 4 more years. But the key is that we've got at least 50% or more of. Hey Veronica, I'll get to your question in a minute. Thank you. We have 50% of the people freaking the blank out. Freaking out right now, thinking that all hell's going to break loose and it's going to be Antifa taking over and defund the police and my whole lifestyle. Oh, hey, Jillian, nice. Thank you for I'll read that in a second. So that's the reactive mind overriding the rational mind. Okay, that's the reactive mind, the emotional mind, the fear, the anxiety, which is being fed by unworked on it's. This idea that by definition, liberals are the devil or Republicans are the devil. This is what is affecting our country on a whole. And let me tell everyone watching this now or in the future, what you see right now is what it's going to be like for at least 20 to 30 years minimum, because everyone thought this was going to be a mandate and a blue wave and repudiating all of what Trump stands for. It ain't happening, people. Your neighbors, your family members, 50% of the people on your block support a lot of what Trump supports, and the other 50% are supporting with Biden. And if it's going to be just hate, if it's just going to be us reacting to each other's like we're enemies, it's going to get worse. We need to accept the presence of the negative in order to start working on it. But that's not the kind of culture we have. That's why I say it's going to take 20 to 30 years before people wake up and say, I have got to accept the negative. I have got to accept the negative and work on it. I've got to talk to people. I've got to find some common ground and work through this, or country's going to go down the tubes in flames if people do not learn to accept the presence of people who don't think and feel like they do. Okay, so I'll get back to how we work on the it. I want to get to a couple questions here. Aaron, great. Thank you for all of your questions. So let's get to Veronica first. I feel like my emotions always get the best of me, especially when I'm angry or sad. When I get into an argument or something bad happens, I get stuck. Great, Veronica, you ain't alone, sister. My first advice to you is everything you just said, excuse me, right there. You have to say to yourself, it's okay that I'm like this. It's okay that I let my emotions get the best of me, especially when I'm angry or sad. It's okay that when I get into an argument or something bad happens, I get stuck. It's okay. Now, you have to make that okay, and then you got to start working on it. So I would ask you, what is going on with how you relate to yourself when you're angry or sad? Like, what is it about being angry or sad that affects you? Were you told as a little girl, hey, stuff those feelings, or you shouldn't feel this way, or did somebody tell you that being angry or sad is wrong? Because listen to what you're saying in the second sentence. When I get into an argument or something bad happens, I get stuck, because see, that tells me that there's some form of trauma or some conditioning that you haven't dealt with. Again, guys, please share this if you're watching this, okay? We need to bring in more people and talking about their mental illness. We all have a degree of mental illness, all right? So you get stuck, Veronica, because what I'm guessing, and again, if you've watched this broadcast before, you know if I launch something out and I'm wrong, keep it to yourself and shut up and sit there and listen to me, because I'm kidding. Tell me I'm wrong so that I don't go off on a tangent. What I'm guessing is there's something about being in an argument, or when something bad happens, it causes you to kind of like, oh shit, oh man, something bad's about, where it's a traumatic, what I call a traumatic trigger. I tend to just go to anger or sadness as a default. Well, Veronica, you need to work on what is making you angry or sad. You need to start accepting that I've got these issues with anger. Excuse me. I've got these issues with anger that I need to deal with. Because there's something about getting into conflict that causes you to have an emotional reaction, sister. And you've got to root that out. You got to begin looking at that like, hey, really, man, like, why do I, in your case, woman, but why do I react to anger like this? Like, what's going on with me? What is it about conflict that makes me collapse? And I'm guessing, sister, that there's something in you that you haven't dealt with. There's an it in there relating to anger or sadness that, I don't know, what I'm sensing, I could be wrong, is kind of like Veronica was either in relationships leading up to this where nobody was attending to her feelings, or if it stems back to her childhood. You know, I would want to know, Veronica, if we were working together, like, what was little Veronica dealing with in her family? Maybe she had a father that was just volatile and exploded, or maybe she had a family where people didn't deal with their emotions. Their its were never talked about. So what I would recommend for you, sister, is you got to spend a little time kind of getting into, why do I just go to anger or sadness as a default? What do I feel when I'm sad? And the next time you're angry or sad, Veronica, make it okay what you're feeling, and feel it, and sit with it, and try to see what that feeling is reminding you of. Family didn't deal with emotion. Well, there you go. Okay, that's it right there. And this isn't staged. I don't know, Veronica. This is exactly what I was sensing, is that there's something was going on in your family that they didn't deal with emotion. Well, sister, I don't know how old you are. I'm thinking you're in your 30s or 40s or something like that, but it's never too late. You've got to start dealing with the emotion. You've got to start dealing with whatever emotion you're feeling with, because the only way to heal it is you got to deal with it. And you guys hear me saying that all the time. You got to heal. To heal it, you got to deal with it. And you've got to feel it to heal it. Okay. So if you're not letting yourself feel it, if you're going off into this idea that, oh, shoot, I learned. And so this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, Veronica. So the it that you're not dealing with is emotion, how to deal with emotion. Because whenever you get emotion, you get flooded. If I accept the anger or sadness, then if I accept the anger or sadness that I'm in, I get stuck. No, I bet you're not accepting it like this. I think you're accepting it what I call passively, meaning, oh, I accept it, and here I am again, and I hate being here, and why do I always have to get here, and this is going to consume me. That's passive acceptance. And by the way, I'm launching out a lot of concepts here that you got to work through. So, these aren't just, oh, no, I got it. But active acceptance, Veronica, is you saying it's okay that I'm angry or sad, but let me work on it. Let me work on it. And the way you work on it, sister, is by talking it out. I don't know if you're working with a counselor or a psychologist, but you got to get into a situation where you're able to talk out some of this pain. Because I'm guessing that if little Veronica had a family where nobody was talking about what was on their mind, then, or talking about emotion, then I'm guessing little Veronica was alone a lot and had no idea how to deal with her emotions. And that's what you need to accept. I don't know how to deal with anger or sadness, and I got to start working on it. But what I would recommend to you is this. This is a simple exercise you can do, Veronica. I'm going to move on to another question. I'll come back if we have time. Is the next time you're angry or sad, tell yourself it's okay that I'm angry or sad. Just say to yourself, it's okay that I'm feeling this. It's okay, but let me work on it. It's okay. It's okay that I'm feel stuck right now. But sister, the stuck feeling is exactly how you felt as a little girl. I'm stuck. I'm alone with how I feel. Nobody's helping me. Why do I feel this way? I hate feeling this way. I got no one to talk to. You got to talk some of that out. Okay, Veronica? So I hope that helped. Guys, a lot of what I do on this show is just give people an idea of what working on this would. Yes, I just started counseling this week. First session, beautiful. So what can I say to the counselor to aid me? Tell them you want to work on, or whoever, male or female, I want to work on the belief system I learned about emotion being something I have to repress. And I want to work on, I need tools on how to manage the anger and sadness. So when I'm in it, I can deal with it. And so I would recommend that you write down some goals. Like if I was a personal trainer, I would want to know, well, you want to work on your chest, your traps, your tricep, whatever it may be. Go in there and say, I want to work on what I learned about anger and sadness. I want to work through that, because what I'm finding out is my family didn't deal with emotions. I don't deal with them, and I need tools to deal with them. But the first step is talk about what it was like as a little girl to feel that way. Okay. So thank you for your questions. Come back Monday. Let me know how things are going. I'd love to hear it. So let's see. Jillian is asking, how do I have a healthy relationship with my mother and set boundaries? My mother has moved in with me earlier in the year. Wow. Stole from me and went back to move in with her abuser. She stole from me in the past and lied about random things all the time. She raised us up in literal garbage. Wow. I'm talking about trash to the ceiling. So she was a hoarder. I'm in a different environment now, but I still have anger towards my mother. I want to confront her and say she hurt me, but I don't want to make things worse for her. She is not in a good state of mind right now. She's in a really controlling relationship with her abuser, to the point of me not being able to see her because of him. I love my mom, but I don't know how to help our relationship. So you're welcome, Veronica. I hope that helps. And please don't lose a faith, sister. You can work on this. And then Aaron is saying, I'm Jillian's brother watching and also want to help her with these issues because they're also affecting me as well. So we got a brother and a sister here. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you opening up and working on this. So Jillian and Aaron, the first thing I would encourage you guys to do is you have to start accepting that your healing may not include your mom. Okay. So what I mean by that is that if your mom is doing has this, you have this history of, abuse, again, remember when I talk about abuse is on a spectrum. Okay. It's not, you're either abused or you're not. Everyone has a form of emotional and psychological abuse. So the first thing I would do is I would help you guys. No problem, Aaron. Thanks for telling your sister about this. And please tell people, remember what Aaron and his sister Jillian are doing right now is exactly what we need in our world. We need people who are saying, look, I got this crap I went through as a kid. It's still affecting me. Now I've got this negative relationship with my mother. She's stealing from me. How do I draw boundaries? So the first thing I would say to you guys is hats off that you're doing the work. So like I said before, the first thing I would say to you is this, Jillian, is you've got to start saying to yourself, look, I may not be able to heal some of these emotional wounds I went through with my mom, basically. She may not be part of this because I don't know your mom. I don't know what level of self-awareness that, okay, Angie, I'll get to you in this. Thank you for your questions. I don't know what level of self-awareness she has. If she's in an abusive relationship, there's obviously some self-esteem issues going on there. She's probably been in multiple abusive relationships. I don't know if you guys, hey Rose, how are you? I don't know if you guys have been abused. I don't know a lot of what's going on, but you're asking me, how do I have a healthy relationship with my mother and set boundaries? Well, the first thing you do is you begin to start having a healthier relationship with yourself. Okay, guys, because if you and Aaron were raised in the environment I think you were raised in, where you had a hoarder mom and you were ashamed to bring people over, and you were always looking at other families like, why the hell can't we have a normal family? You guys have some issues that you need to deal with. So the first thing I would encourage, the second thing I would encourage you to do, the first thing is begin to accept that whatever healing you're going to have or do may be independent of your mom. But when you're talking about setting boundaries, that's the hard part. I would recommend that you sit down with your mom, both of you, Aaron, Jillian may need you, not need you, but you guys may need to have this conversation with your mom, and you sit down and talk about it. Hey, what's up, human being? Thanks for logging on YouTube. You both sit down with her in a loving, it doesn't have to be, you mother, I hate you did this, and just say to her, look, this is what we're going to need. This is where we're moving. We cannot continue to be triggered by what we went through as a kid with you consistently doing this. We're not writing you out of our life, but we're just letting you know that we're going to begin the process of setting boundaries. And then the two of you decide what those boundaries are going to be. So Aaron's saying it was an extreme hoarding situation. So just imagine what you went through as a kid, Aaron. Just imagine what that taught you. Just imagine day after day of living in that, what that taught you. The shame, the low self-esteem, thinking that whatever issue you were dealing with on a daily basis, just hygiene, food, embarrassment, just the multiple issues that are coming out of that you guys need to deal with. So step number one, you guys need to accept that my healing or whatever I'm going to go through may be independent of her. Step number two, talk to your mom in a way where you begin to let her know, we love you. This is too painful. This is too painful. So if you're going to continue doing this, if you're going to move in with me and steal from me and do and continue to go be in an abusive relationship, then we're going to need to have boundaries where you're going to have to deal with that independent of us to a degree. Now, that is a degree. Some people say, look, I've given you multiple chances. I've over and over. I've said, okay, over and over, and you continue to do the same thing. It may be leading to one of those periods where there's not a lot of contact. Now, the question again, if I was working with you and Aaron, I would have to ask you guys honestly, can you handle that? Can you handle getting to a point where your mom does her thing, you guys do yours, and then if something goes bad with her and something happens to her, can you handle that? One of the things I encourage a lot of my clients, and I don't like to be life coachy too much, but I like to help people deal with what's, whatever guilt or whatever they're feeling, is you got to do what you can live with. If you can live with this kind of relationship with your mom, then don't make any changes. If you can handle this, and it's better to have her moving in and out, and you can, keep an eye on her. And if something happens to her, at least you'll know you tried. Then you may have to stay in this situation. But if this is becoming too emotionally triggering for you guys and it's holding you back, Jillian, to have a relationship, or it's making you feel guilty that you're supposed to rescue your mom, because that's another thing you guys went through. This idea that I have to save mom. And you're playing that out as adults now. So what I would recommend is Jillian and Aaron, you two need to talk to each other and set out a strategy. But that's secondary. That's all external. Remember this thing with your mom and all this, that's external. The internal has to be your primary focus here. Okay, guys, you got to start working through what you all went through as kids. You got to start working through that. Okay, because if you don't work through that, that is going to continue to work on you. And like I said before, the title of tonight is How to Deal with It. You guys is what you went through as kids. And remember, the fact that it's still affecting you The fact that whatever trauma you went through with your mom is still affecting you is not your fault. You didn't ask for any of this crap. I don't know. You haven't talked too much about your dad, so I don't know what's going on there. But whatever is still affecting you relating to the trauma you went through, that is because you two were traumatized kids. Remember, trauma's on a spectrum, guys, degrees of trauma. You went through a degree of trauma. If you were living in a hoarding type of an environment, that leads me to believe that your mother had other mental health issues that you guys were dealing with, and you guys were probably parentified. You guys were parentified, meaning what's parentification? Children are put in a role of parent way too early. And it screws them up, not screws them up like they're psychotic, but it alters their perceptions of their own responsibility for things. So the fact that Jillian, because she's obviously a caring, loving individual, allows her mother to keep coming in and out of her life is because that's the pattern that you guys had as kids. You guys were probably constantly taking care of your mom in some way or another. And you guys need to sit down and figure out what you want to do. And if that boundary is, Mom, we love you, but you've been doing this to us our whole life. We can't do this anymore. And if you don't work on your issues and get some help or medication or whatever it is, or get out of this abusive relationship, we can't keep rescuing you. We can't. I love you, Mom, but guess what? I'm learning to love me more. And if you're going to continue triggering my trauma that you gave me, then I may need to set some better boundaries. And the fact that you guys need to set some boundaries is okay, because you guys were abused kids. And I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but you guys were abused kids. All right. If you're living in a hoarding environment to that degree, guys, not trying to scare you, because we're all abused to a certain degree, but you guys had a level of child abuse that needs to be worked on. Okay. So I hope that helped. Feel free to send me some messages, log back on Monday night. Let me know how things are going. If one of you wants to come on and we can talk live and do a little bit of this live where we can get back and forth and show people what it's like, please feel free. Again, remember, anybody watching live or after the fact, this is my cell phone, not cell phone. It's a texting number that I have online that goes to my cell phone. But shoot me a text message. It's very easy. You can either have the video on or video off. But if you want to engage with me a little live, we can work some of this through while you're live. Feel free. Okay? So thanks for logging on. Hope that helped. If you want to shoot me some, no one's following up. So I'm thinking you guys may be just absorbing it. So, thanks for your question. Okay, so I'm going to move on to another question here. Angie is saying, I was so scared to call. Let me see here. Let me back up. I had a big panic attack this evening. I called my friend and she was able to help me since I was not being able to get myself through it. I was so scared to call her because I didn't want to bother her with my issues. But in the end, I was a good thing that I did. Beautiful, Angie. Great. I'm glad you reached out. So what I would offer to you, Angie, is what was feeding, and we're getting some great questions here. So, wow, that was some super profound info, actually. Great, Aaron. Well, thanks, bro. I appreciate that feedback. You know, I love what I do. And a lot of what you and your sister are going through breaks my heart when I have a 4-year-old to think of subjecting him to what you guys went through. But Aaron, bro, you got to accept that I was abused as a kid. I was psychologically, I don't know if you guys were physically abused. No, don't worry about it, dude. You're oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're tapping into some of that emotion, brother. Okay. I'm glad to hear that, but it's okay. The fact that you're feeling that emotion is showing you that there's some pain in there. And Aaron, you got to say to yourself right now, while you're feeling that pain, it's okay. Aaron, the fact that you're crying, brother, is a sign that you're emotionally and psychologically healthy. The fact that you feel emotion, anybody who feels emotion is by default psychologically and emotionally healthy. Why do I say that? Let's go to the opposite. You don't feel shit, excuse my language. You don't feel anything. You're blunted. You're emotionally vacuous. You don't have any emotions. That's healthy? Not healthy. So great, brother. I'm glad you're able to feel that emotion and realize, yeah, man, I was abused and I got to work on that. And if it means I got to protect myself a little bit from somebody who continues to abuse me, sometimes you got to do what you got to do for that painful part of you. So getting back to Angie, but in the end, I was glad that I did. Good. So Angie, I asked you, what was feeding that? And then you followed up here. So I was stalked and almost kidnapped as a teen. I remember we talked about this. This man I know stalked me to a degree for a couple of years. He just wanted to have a relationship with me where we were married to others, not hurt me like the other stalker. So Angie, you got to work on that, sister, okay? And you got to start talking that out. You got to get to the root of what's causing you to feel this panic, because what you're doing by coming onto this show is great and talking about it, but the next step is getting into a situation. And I believe you sent me some private messages, so let me go back and look at that and then maybe we can talk a little bit. But you got to start working on that and talking it through, because Angie, you are hating yourself over all this trauma, and that's causing the panic. Okay, I did end up having a relationship for several years with him before it ended very traumatically. Yeah, and all that trauma that's inside of you, sister, is stuff you need to work on. Okay, that it's not going to be easy, because it's going to entail talking a lot of this through, but you've got to work on that. So let me just back up for a second and go back to Erin. What's a good way to help convince her to seek professional mental health treatment? I know she ultimately has to want to help herself, but I just really think professional help is the only way to help her in the long term. The best way, Erin, to let her to not best way, but what I would recommend on an advice level would be, you've got to say to her that until you do that, we're not going to have much of a relationship, Mom. I'm not going to cut you out and say, I never want to speak to you again. But you got to make it clear to her that the time has come for you and your sister to protect yourselves. Okay, you've got to start saying to yourself that this is what we need to do. And you've got to let her know, Mom, we don't hate you. We don't, but you need to get some help. And when you're getting some help, then maybe we can come into your counselor and we can all work some of this through. But you got to let her know that a relationship moving forward is contingent upon her getting help. Just like what I'm telling to Angie right now, you and your sister need to also seek out some help to start talking this through. Talking out some of this trauma you guys went through. Nothing wrong with it. You didn't ask for the trauma. You didn't ask to deal with this as a kid, like Angie didn't. Angie didn't ask to be stalked and almost kidnapped as a teen. But all of that trauma, remember the title of tonight's, or the topic for tonight, is how to deal with it. This is the it that people aren't dealing with. This is the it. And I'm guessing that I could be wrong, but I'm guessing that Aaron and his sister, having gone through all this trauma, they have issues in relationships, meaning they have trust issues or they have other issues stemming from it. And maybe they haven't dealt with it, but you got to deal with it. This is what we need as a culture for people to understand. Every single person that you walk around looking at every single day has issues from their past that the majority of people aren't dealing with. And these its are getting so bad that things are just polarizing and fracturing out to a point where they're going to get so polarized that they're going to snap back at some point. And I hope that we don't get to that. I hope that whatever happens in over the next 4 years, we're going to deal with it. So Angie's saying he watches me in a way that unnerves me. If I can see him and the panic isn't so bad. If I can't see him, but I know that he's there close by, it's crazy. It's not crazy, sister. You're not crazy. Okay. You are not crazy. Let me tell you that you are a traumatized individual. That trauma, what you went through, was crazy. You're not crazy. Okay, Angie, you got to stop saying to yourself, you are abusing yourself the way you were abused. And that is what sets off the trauma. But the first step for you, Angie, is we got to get you into a place where you can talk some of this out. Okay. Angie's relationship with Angie is the thing that's affecting her. Hey, Juan, how you doing? I'll get to you in a second, man. Well, if they don't like you being on here sharing, then clearly there's some issues, Juan, that they don't want, that you went through, that they don't want other people to know, but you got to deal with them. But I'll get to you in a second. So Angie, you got to stop telling yourself you're crazy. You're not crazy. What you went through is crazy. What you told, what you've written tonight, I mean, that is, you're not crazy. What you went through is crazy. So let me back up for a second here and get to human being. And Rasmus A, hey Rasmus, how you doing, buddy? Human being is asking, I've been working with my emotional wounds for a while, but it is very difficult when it comes to when it comes with dealing people who don't have any idea about mental awareness and health. It always ends up with the same old pattern which I had in the past. Let me see how do you deal with narcissistic people without losing my enlightenment awareness, which I had made through my mental workouts? Let me just see. Okay, well, great questions, brother or sister. I don't know what you've been on before, and I'm sorry, I don't remember if you're because I can't tell from your picture or your name. But the fact that you've been working through your emotional wounds for a while, that's good. And when it comes to dealing with people who don't have any idea about mental awareness and health, it always ends up with the same old pattern, which I had in the past. Okay, so I don't know what that old pattern is in the past. So what I'm wondering as I'm reading this is, why do you need the people who don't have mental awareness and health to like I'm missing a piece here. Like, it's almost as if you're saying that if they were aware of what you went through, then you would then react differently. And what I'm feeling is that, so you're saying how to deal with narcissistic people without losing my light, which I'd made through my mental health workouts. Okay. So again, just getting back to the other point, that it's almost as if I'm feeling you saying that they are making you fall back into your old patterns. So that would be something I would look into a little bit more. Like, why do they have the power to make you fall back into your old patterns? Because what I'm thinking is, when you didn't say it, but I'm guessing that whatever emotional wounds you're talking about are abuse. So it sounds like there's some abuse history you had in your past that then people are making you, triggering that, and then you're falling back into the old pattern. So real quick, this is my formulation for you. You need to say to yourself right now, it's okay that I fall back into my old patterns. Yeah, and now it's making sense to me. So you're saying then, how do I deal with narcissistic people without losing my enlightenment and awareness, which I'd made? Well, let me tell everyone watching this right now, okay? Everything about mental health and mental illness is about this, a wave. You're going to feel like you're on top of it sometimes, and other times you're not. You're going to feel it's a wave-like nature to all of our thoughts and emotions. If you're thinking, human being, that you're going to get to a point where you have no emotional reaction to people who don't have mental health awareness or mental health awareness or whatever, then you are literally, yes, okay, yes, they're triggering the past. Okay, so that's my point to you. People who trigger, this is a very Buddhist thing, I didn't come up with this, but the people who trigger our issues are our best teachers. Now, why do I say that? Okay, because what Buddhism, and I'm not a Buddhist, but I pick my training is from multiple different conceptualizations and multiple different theories and philosophies and religions and ideas and psychology and all that. But we like to look at the people who are triggering us as, screw them, I hate them, get them out of my life, social media, get rid of all the negative people. What I would say to you, human being, is every time you're triggered, that person is trying to help you heal. Now, I know you might say, well, what the hell does that mean? How is it helping me heal? Because it's showing you where the unworked on stuff is. But what's happening, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, but what's happening is when you get triggered by whatever you went through in your past, I hate that. I hate that I'm like this. I haven't made any changes. You see, it's all there. And that will continue that cycle within you. So what I'm encouraging you to do is, whoever is helping you with these emotional wounds, talk about ways to handle the trigger, meaning that when you get triggered, I got to keep track of time here. When you get triggered, you need tools to manage that. And the number one tool I'm giving you right now, if you want to use it, it's up to you, is it's okay. You got to make the fact that you're triggered okay, because you guys may think, oh, this dude's 55 years old. He's a psychologist for the last 20 plus years. He never reacts to things. He has his stuff together all the time. Honey, if you're watching this upstairs, come down and enlighten them, because trust me, I burn passionately on both sides and I get triggered. The thing that I'm doing, and I'm working on it, because I didn't do any of this work early on. I started this in my mid-20s, late 30s. So I have to allow myself to be triggered and then work on what I'm feeling. So human being, whatever is going on with you tonight, you've got to give up this idea that of what you said, not give up like boom. I mean, begin to think about, without losing my enlightenment awareness. You're going to lose your enlightenment and awareness. You're going to. The key is, what do you tell yourself? Are you the AA model that tells you, oh, I drank once, so it's all over? Or are you more of the other model that says, it's okay that I lost it. Let me work on getting it back. Because what people don't understand is it's the ebb and flow. It's the in and out, where think about how you build a muscle, positive, negative, in and out. Everything's about polarities. Everything's about allowing polarities to exist, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier. We don't allow that in this country. You got to be right. You got to be left. You got to be this or you got to be that. And that's why we're polarizing more and more, because Trump supporters don't like to even admit that they have liberal views, and liberal people don't like to admit that they have conservative views. And so they begin in conflict. Okay. So, what I would recommend is that, human being, you got to say to yourself right now, it's okay that I lose my enlightenment and awareness. It's okay. This person is triggering me. The second question, well, let me finish that thought. Sorry. It's okay. Let me pull it back. Let me use some tools. Let me tell myself it's okay. And let me get back on track with working on it. Okay. So how to deal with narcissistic people, that's a whole nother show. I'm going to do a couple shows on that, because there's so much misinformation about narcissism. There's so many unlicensed people talking about narcissism because they were hurt, and then they're bleeding all over the internet with how to get even with the narcissist and way to spot the narcissist, and blah, 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 instead of how do I heal those wounds. So the main thing I would say to you at this point with dealing with narcissistic people is, you've got to identify the narcissist in your life, and then you've got to make a decision about whether or not you want them in your life. Now, that's a very simple answer, but it's a deeper issue that we've got to get into. And I want to get into some other questions. So to sum up for you, human being, it's okay that you lose your enlightenment and awareness. You need tools to bring yourself back from that when you lose it. The first one is, it's okay that I lost it. You got to have faith that you're going to get back to it, optimism. And as you can tell, guys, you might think he's doing this off the top of his head, but I'm not. These are interventions that you work with people on deeply so that they get ingrained in them. Okay, human beings. So I hope that helped. So let me see here. Toby, let me just make sure. Wait a minute. I had somebody before Toby. Rose. Hey, Rose. Okay. So Rose is saying, let's see here. Where did it start? Thank you for all the questions, guys. This is why I'm doing this, okay? I have been discovering what it is, and I'm dealing with it. Beautiful. I'm doing great. Can't wait to continue to help others. I've been doing statistic studies for psychology and mental health. Beautiful. I finally had an epiphany and embark in my new journey thanks to you, Doc. Oh, wow. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Rose. I appreciate that. There are a lot of new, innovative ways to help you go into deep healing meditations, and one of those being virtual reality device my family and I just purchased. Beautiful. Spell check, that's okay. And then Rose, again, still waiting to hear from you on that other thing. Well, that's great to hear, Rose. I'm glad you are feeling yourself getting better. That's great. So keep doing the work. Beautiful. I'm glad that you got motivated through some of these live streams, because that's why I'm doing them. I'm not charging anybody to do this. All I'm trying to get people to think about is, you can heal this. You don't have to suffer with it for the rest of your life. You don't, but you got to talk it out. Seminars, books, podcasts, all good stuff. But it's one way, which isn't bad. This is the powerful thing. Talking, language, talking it out, learning new ways to cope, learning new ways to manage how you're feeling. Okay? So great, Rose. And shoot me a private message about that other thing if you want. So Rasmus A, we'll close with him. For me, one of the biggest triggers is when I say something clearly and then the other person later says something that gives an impression that I have talked to a brick wall. Okay, beautiful. So what I would say to you, Rasmus A, is the it for you is not having your emotional needs met, being ignored, being disrespected. You got to look into where you learn that. Conditioning is one of the most powerful, unworked on things that we have on our planet. So he or she's following up saying, how to deal with disappointments that come from this. The disappointment, I'll see even before I said it. So that's what I'm saying. The disappointment that other person doesn't listen or doesn't understand what I'm saying and I'm feeling reluctant to continue talking. Well, again, I don't know how close this person is, but obviously they're close enough to you to be triggering this. Rasmus A, you got to start working on your it is what you felt, the disappointment you learned as a kid. I don't know if you had a broken home or your dad never showed up or there's the disappointment is your it. This is Rasmus A thinking for a minute. What's going on with me? Yeah. And I do advocate talking to yourself in a therapeutic way. Absolutely. Because people don't talk to themselves enough, or they talk to themselves like this. Oh, it's so pathetic. I'm such a loser. So anyway, Rasmus A needs to say to him or herself, well, what's going on with disappointment? Why is disappointment such a trigger? Well, what's going on with me when this person I'm talking to doesn't listen to me or why do I have such a strong emotional reaction to it? And people might say, well, who's going to like that? I'm not saying about liking it, but the person that Rasmus A is leading with this. So this is the person's it, not being listened to, not being validated. That is a deeper issue. Because I guarantee you, and if you want to follow up, please let me know. But I'm guaranteeing, Rasmus A, there's something going on in you about disappointment. That when a love interest, when somebody you're involved with who's supposed to care about you is making you feel that they don't care about you, that's your trigger. That's your traumatic trigger. Just like throwing a firecracker at a war veteran. You throw a firecracker at a war veteran, guess what happens? They have an emotional reaction. So Rasmus A, what I would recommend to you is this. Tell the person how they're affecting you. Sit them down. Make it clear. Say it again. Say, this is what you're doing that's affecting me. When I say something to you and I think you hear me clearly, then I come back and it's like you didn't hear a word. What's going on? Am I not explaining myself? I see, there you go. He or she's saying, I feel so disrespected when I talk and the other person doesn't listen. Well, brother or sister, you feeling so disrespected, I will guarantee you is not new to you. I will guarantee, and I could be wrong. Remember, please tell me if I'm wrong, but I am almost guaranteeing you that you whittled it down tonight. I got to look at why being disrespected is such an issue for me, because I can feel it. Little Rasmus A got disrespected a lot as a kid, didn't get his or her needs met, was left alone a lot, didn't feel that people respected them or not, or there's some other trauma associated with being disrespected that you got to get to. Now, am I saying that you should just stay in a relationship where you're getting disrespected? No. But talk to the person, tell them how being disrespected triggers your underlying trauma, and help make them aware of that. Maybe they're not aware of that. I don't know. If they're continually disrespecting you, I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty big incompatibility, man. So, or woman. So you may need to think that you may need to give them a chance to work on it. And if they don't, then you got to make a decision whether or not, this is the kind of relationship you want to keep exposing yourself to. Well, guys, thank you for all your questions. Remember, I am on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Please share this. Please tell other people about it. If you have any other questions, you can shoot me, question on this after the fact. But this is my last bit of advice to anybody watching this now or on later. We have to work on our polarized thinking, okay? We have to work on hating each other. We have to stop looking at each other as the enemy. That starts from within. You have to get into your its. You have to start thinking about your thinking. Why am I like this? Why am I allowing hate to dominate my perceptions of other people and mainly of myself? Okay. We need to work on our its. We need to figure out what it is. So Rasmus say, your it is feeling disrespected. Tonight, after I log off, sit with that a little bit. Yeah, really, why is being disrespected such an issue for me? What's going on with that? Go into that a little bit. It's not gonna, I'm healed, but you're gonna start understanding. Just like a racist who doesn't want to be a racist anymore starts sitting and thinking, well, why am I hating this black dude? Why am I hating this white guy? Why am I doing that? What's the deal with that? You got to get into that. So they're following up. So it has become too important, then the other person listens. Otherwise, I feel unlovable. There you go. There you go. Why does being disrespected mean I'm unlovable? You hit the nail on the head, Rasmus. You got to look into that. Why is being disrespected and unheard make me feel unlovable? And you hit the nail on the head. Sit with that. I'm unlovable? What's up with that? Why am I unlovable? Why is them not listening to me make me feel unlovable? Because I'm guaranteeing you, Rasmus A., you struggled with being loved enough as a kid. You were in positions as a kid where people disrespected you or made you feel unlovable or disappointed you, and you took that personally. Oh, they don't love me. That's why they're doing this. And you're projecting that outward onto your current relationship, okay? So listen, send me a private message, okay? If you want, you can always contact me through, I got to change this because this is now fed to my YouTube page, but my website is licensedpsychology.com. Okay, that's my website, licensedpsychology.com. Shoot me a message if you want to chat a little bit about it, but brother or sister Rasmus A., you got to ask yourself, why do I feel unlovable when somebody doesn't listen to me? That's a wound. That's your it. Okay, so thanks for logging on. Please, everybody, in the next few weeks, if you're a Trump supporter, if you're a Biden supporter, we got to stop being polarized so much. Hopefully Biden isn't as triggering as Trump was for a lot of people, but we've got to work on our its, okay? So thank you for all your questions. I appreciate it a lot. This is time I'm giving, so I really appreciate everyone who's watching it. Shoot me some questions. Please share this. Everyone has a degree of mental illness, people. Everybody. You got to work on it, okay? So I'll see you Monday at 9 p.m. Please have a good weekend. And again, you can always contact me online. Just type in Dr. Stephen Walker or Stephen Walker Licensed Psychologist. You'll come up to my website and we can exchange some messages, okay? Great. Thank you for all your questions. I'll see you Monday night. Peace out.